I'm shaking right now. In fact, it's been hard to even type. My fingers are shaking so badly I can't even type on my BlackBerry to get you the information I was trying to get through. And this is the moment we started to believe would never come, because the last time I would remember when Bret Baier was in Afghanistan interviewing General Petraeus, I told him, I said, ask him about Osama bin Laden. You never hear any of the guys at the Pentagon, any of the intel folks talking about, is getting Osama bin Laden still a top national security priority? And Bret asked him, and we continued to ask, and there was no sense that they were any closer to getting him. You sensed that they knew what quadrant he was in. They knew that Pakistani, tribal leaders had certainly given him protection for a long period of time. But right now, I can say that I'm shaking with this news. I think this is.
Do you know, Jennifer, whether it was in Pakistan or Afghanistan?
I'm waiting to get details about where he was struck, so I don't want to speculate at this moment. But I need to get more details. So why don't I get off the phone and I'll get those details to you as soon as I have them.
Thank you, Jennifer Griffin, our Pentagon correspondent. Live from Rome, ladies and gentlemen, Ambassador Jim Nicholson, former Secretary of Veterans Affairs. I know, Jim, nice to have you on board tonight of all nights. You're in Rome for the beatification of Pope John Paul, who is now on the verge of sainthood. I know that when you spoke, when you presented your credentials to Pope John Paul, as I recall, you spoke in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. I want you to tell us what the now shortly to be Saint John Paul said to you. If you could relate that conversation and tell us also from your own heart as a veteran how you feel at this moment, Ambassador.
Well, it's I came to this studio here tonight to talk about the beatification, and these events have come up, and it makes me reflect that the first time I met the Pope, I presented my credentials to him, and it was on 9/13 of 01, 48 hours after the attack of Osama bin Laden on our country. And he said to me, very surprisingly, our formal remarks went aside, and he said, Ambassador, we have to stop these people who are killing in the name of God. And that was an affirmation of us going into Afghanistan, and it also helped build our coalition that we
the Associated Press, hold it,
that was the Pope.
Mr. Secretary, hold it 1 second. Osama bin Laden is dead, and the USA has his body, says a person familiar with the developments. That's the Associated Press now going with their own bulletin. Mr. Secretary, it seems as if the news now has been confirmed 6 ways to Sunday. The terror mastermind, the architect, and the inspiration for the 9/11 attacks. Few months shy of the 10th anniversary, has now been confirmed dead. You were talking about your conversation with then Pope John Paul on the 13th of September 2001. The Pope telling you that we have to stop people killing in the name of religion. Why don't you finish your thought, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, and so then we just discussed this and the horror that had befallen our people, this attack, and the Pope was grieving as much as we were. And we said a prayer together for the victims and their families. And then as I think about this today and this beautiful ceremony that we had where we beatified this man, and the confluence of these events strikes me as another of the many things that happened during his life that people who've analyzed those realize, it's almost the mystic part of this man's existence. And so it's a day to celebrate on many levels, and certainly commend the people of our armed forces who've been so consistent and persistent in going after this guy and finally getting him. It's a great morale booster for all of us, and I think, as Tom sitting there would tell you, it's probably going to have, I think, a real effect on the leadership and the enthusiasm of the Al-Qaeda.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you heard first here on Fox News at 39 minutes after 10 o'clock Eastern Time, Osama bin Laden is dead. The terror mastermind, the architect of the 9/11 attacks, is now history. Joining us on the phone now, our national security advisor. I don't know how we could stylize that, but a former defense secretary during the Reagan administration, K.T. McFarland, Assistant Deputy Defense Secretary during the Reagan administration. K.T. McFarland's on the phone. K.T., you've been to Afghanistan many, many times, sometimes at risk to yourself. Why don't you tell us how you're feeling and what you have heard other than this breaking news that you're hearing right now on our network?
Well, Geraldo, actually, I was in Afghanistan just 10 days ago and spent quite a bit of time with General Petraeus. A couple of things come very quickly to mind. The Petraeus et al. Think that they were making great progress on the ground against the Taliban, but they had two other things that they weren't doing well, and one was Karzai. Karzai is hedging his bets about will the United States leave, will the United States not leave. The Pakistanis, they were not going after the Taliban in the tribal areas, again, because they wanted to hedge their bets. Now, if Osama bin Laden is dead, what this does is it's a game changer for all of that. It means that the Afghanis and the Pakistanis who are sitting on the fence, they're going to jump off that fence, and they're going to jump on our side. I
hope you're right. I hope you're right.
The Taliban now, I think it will be likely that they'll want to negotiate. I think they desert al-Qaeda. It's possible the Pakistanis will now go after the Pakistani Taliban in Waziristan. And this could be a total game changer for the Afghan and Pakistan wars. And I think the other thing is, Geraldo, it's a great vindication of Petraeus, because Petraeus was the advocate of the drone strikes, and he was willing to take the fight to the tribal areas in Pakistan and work with the Pakistanis to try to go after the Taliban, al-Qaeda, and Osama bin Laden. And if this is the case, I think it's a great pleasure to him.
We are going to pause for just 20 seconds. We will be joining the Fox network in one moment. All right. Very, very shortly, we'll be joining the network in 10 seconds. We're going live on the Fox Broadcast Network as well as the Fox News channel. This is a Fox News special report. I'm Geraldo Rivera in Washington, D.C., where we are waiting to hear from the President of the United States. He has an extraordinary message to tell the American people and the world. Fox News is confirming that Osama bin Laden is dead. I never thought I'd be able to say those words. I am delighted, ladies and gentlemen, to bring you that message. Osama bin Laden, the terror mastermind, the architect of the attacks that killed 3,000 Americans almost 10 years ago, is dead. He has been killed, we are told, by a U.S. bomb or missile. His body is in the possession of the United States. The DNA testing, we are told from various sources, is confirming that Osama bin Laden, the man who has altered the course of history, a man who has been responsible directly or indirectly for thousands, tens of thousands of lives lost in Afghanistan and in terror actions around the world. He is now dead. We are delighted to tell you that. We are told that we're going to get more information. Well, obviously, the President of the United States will be giving us chapter and